Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first session. So, this session is all about sales motivation and sell like a champion, breaking down the barriers. So, we will be talking about how to compete with competitors, standing out from them, how to empower and motivate the sell force in the new direction with the new selling methodologies. So, our keynote speaker is Mr. Jagmohan Bhanver. So, he is the CEO of Talgro India, a cutting edge EdTech firm, Dean Emeritus IIFM, and the chief mentor for people first India and Middle East. He has developed and used the patented spend and sales process across different sectors and international markets. He has trained and coached more than 200,000 sales leaders and team across different industries. He is the author of Think Your Way to Millions, the first book in Asia to focus on user behavior to sell more effectively. So let's welcome Mr. Jug Mohan Vanva.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Arti, for those kind words, and a very warm welcome to all the participants in this summit. I'd like to thank GLA and Growth Sellers for inviting me over for this session. Really excited to be here, and I'm hopeful that the little time that I get to spend with you would be good use of your time and patience. So the way I was planning the session was, we are living in a new paradigm and everybody's been talking about it. So I thought since I was asked to speak about selling like a champion, I thought we'll spend some time talking about what this whole champion mindset is all about. And since it's about sales, it's a sales summit, I thought we could also spend some time on talking about how to build a powerful sales attitude. And then we'll go on to talking a little about how you can differentiate yourself in the marketplace with competitors and eventually, focusing on the new paradigm. So that's how I'm structuring my session. Before I start off, let me ask the audience, and you can put your comments in the chat box. We've been using this term paradigm for quite some time. What is your understanding of a paradigm? Very quickly, if I could have some responses. Hello, Praveen. So let me repeat my question. When we talk about paradigms, what is the audience's understanding of the term paradigm? It could be right, it could be wrong. Don't worry about that. Let's just have a few comments in the chat box if you can. Pattern. So Praveen says it's a pattern. Very good, Praveen. Anybody else? So what are these patterns all about? When we speak about paradigms, what are these patterns all about? Okay, since I have limited time, let me come up with the answer myself. Paradigms are essentially, as Praveen very rightly said, these are a set of rules, patterns. We establish paradigms because that's the way of doing things. If there is no way of doing things, everybody out there is going to be doing things in the way that they deem is right. And which means there will be chaos, there will be anarchy. So usually paradigms work very well because, well, they help you figure out, what's the right way of doing things. It could be how to lead people. It could be how to sell more effectively. It could be about anything. It could be just how to live your life, for instance, right? So I'm going to show you a small animation around paradigms, and then we will start off. Let me know if you are not able to see it. I'm going to share my screen. Is my screen visible? Maybe one of the people here could help me out. Is my screen visible, Arti, Deepika, Aman?
Yes, so we can see your screen, but it's very small, and our audience is requesting you to.
Oh, is it? I've put it on full screen. I don't know why it's showing uh, in the way
So,
it is showing. What about now? Is it visible?
yes, it's visible, sir, but still the size is not so big. Okay, now I think we can see it.
Is it too small to make out what is happening there? Don't worry about the text because I will explain it.
No,
But
it's
at
not
least,
too small, sir. I think I'm being able to see the screen properly.
So, are you sharing two screens?
yes, but I had moved on to the actual presentation. Let me try doing it again and tell me if it's better now.
Yeah.
Any better?
No, we are still in that screen, the same page, sir.
Okay. Are all the participants saying they can't see this?
Uh, okay.
Because that feedback would help.
Okay, some are saying they can see, we can see.
Yeah.
Is
So
it okay?
what might be happening is the people who are not able to see, if they refresh their screen, it'll probably happen because I put this on full screen. So I will start off, and in any case, I think the text is more important. The animation is more important than the text. So this was an experiment which was done many years ago. What a group of scientists did was they put a bunch of 5 monkeys in a room, and in the middle of the room, they put this ladder, and on top of the ladder, there were a whole lot of bananas. Now, as we all know, monkeys like bananas. And therefore, what do you think happened? The first thing that the monkeys did was one of them tried to climb up to get the banana and eat it. But the moment that happened, the scientists put cold water on the other 4 monkeys. Now, that's obviously painful for the monkeys. So, after a period of time, every time a monkey would go up on the ladder to get the bananas, you know, the other monkeys would catch hold of them and start thrashing them because they knew that if the monkey goes up, they will get doused with cold water. So, over a period of time, none of the monkeys actually went up. They would all happily stay down because nobody wanted to be thrashed. After a couple of weeks, what the scientists did was they replaced one of these monkeys with a bigger monkey, a different monkey. Okay. And because the new monkey had no idea what was happening, the moment he saw the bananas, he tried climbing up. But the other 4 monkeys immediately started thrashing the new monkey as well. Mind you, there was no cold shower happening right now. But the other 4 monkeys knew that if this guy climbs up, there will be a cold shower. So before he could climb, they started hitting him.
Okay, so
After a week,
sorry, shall I request you because our audience they are requesting they cannot see the screen and it's very small and sound is also breaking, so they are not being able to see the screen properly. So
okay, that's very surprising. Um and Arti, you are not able to see the screen either, is it?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell me if this is visible. Just hold on a second.
Sir, I guess you didn't click on the full screen button. That is why it was showing a bit small.
Okay, I think I can see the screen.
What about now?
It's
Is
very
this any
small.
Uh,
better?
Please go on the below toolbar and just click on the PowerPoint icon. That you yeah. No, the PowerPoint icon. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Now it is visible. Yeah.
Visible?
Yeah.
Okay. This is also visible.
Yes, sir. It's visible
Yes.
now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. So, very quick recap of what we just did. These are the monkeys who were climbing up. One of the monkeys went up. The others were doused with cold shower. So they started thrashing this monkey. Over a period of time, none of the monkeys went up, even though the bananas were there. After some time, the scientists replaced one of the monkeys with this new monkey. And because he had no idea what's going to happen to him, he tried climbing, but the other monkeys started thrashing him. Now, mind you, as I said earlier, now there was no cold shower. But these monkeys were still thrashing him because they expected that the cold shower will happen. Okay. After a week, another monkey was replaced, and over a period of time, all the monkeys were replaced. Now you have a situation where there are 5 monkeys in this room. None of them has ever been doused with cold shower. But every time a new monkey used to come, the other monkeys used to still thrash the person. And you have these 5 guys sitting over here. There are bananas which they can take, but nobody even attempts to climb the ladder to get the bananas. This is a paradigm. Why is this a paradigm? Because the monkeys have been trained to believe that this is how things happen here, which means if we try and climb the ladder, we are supposed to thrash the person who is climbing the ladder, or we decide that we don't want to climb it. So you eventually have a situation where there are 5 people in that room who are doing things without really knowing why they're doing what they're doing. And that is how paradigms get created. And paradigms, if followed blindly, can actually be very misleading and self-limiting because people lose sight of why that paradigm was created. Okay. The reason I started this session with paradigms is because all of us have a set of paradigms that we've been operating under over the last so many years. But now the paradigms are beginning to shift. And unless we are able to bring that paradigm shift within our own minds, if we are leaders, we will not be able to help shift those paradigms for our teams. And if we are those salespeople out there who are every day going out to do business, if we cannot adapt to the changed paradigm, we've lost the battle without even starting the battle. Okay. Now we will start off with the actual presentation. And again, Aarti, you can tell me if this is visible or not visible so we don't lose time. Is this visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, great. I'm sure everybody in Nepal recognizes this photograph of the legend as well as the mountain. That's Tenzing Norgay and of course Mount Everest. As I told you, we'll start with champion mindset because that's what I was told to talk about, initially. When we talk about a champion mindset is essentially when the person is able to look beyond the boundaries that either the world has placed on us or we have placed on ourselves. And mind you, while a lot of us think it's the world who is placing boundaries on us, more often than not, it is we ourselves who put boundaries on ourselves. We put the constraints. We tell ourselves what we can do, what we cannot do. Now, here is an interesting concept. Whether you're a salesperson, a sales leader, a marketing person, an operations person, doesn't matter. You will have some goals that are set for you. When your mind is thinking, your mind is telling you what is the goal. So 2 things happen. The first thing is thinking about the goal. Now, the goal could be selling 100 photocopier machines, in a month, or it could be selling 20 millions worth of mutual funds to clients. There is no rocket science to this. This is simple. This is my mind thinking what my goal is. But yet, there are some people who achieve that goal and there are others who are not able to achieve that goal. That is because of the other thing. How do we feel about what is happening around us? So, for instance, if the goal is, I need to sell 20 copiers in the next 1 month, that goal is there for me and for 20 other people in the team. But I could be thinking, oh my God, this is a very difficult target to achieve. So how I feel about this impacts my behavior towards the goal. Whereas you could be thinking 20, not a problem at all. I could probably do 30. So the mindset that you bring to whatever is happening around you, whether it's a goal or a target or whatever else, defines how well you're able to achieve it. If this is not clear, the next slide will probably make it easier. Look, all our behavior, there is the visible behavior, that's what you and I do, which people see around us. And then there is the invisible behavior. The invisible behavior is hidden deep inside our mind, okay? And our visible behavior is driven by what we think of ourselves. So that's our self-concept, what we think of ourselves. I could think of myself as a winner, or I could think of myself as a loser. How I think about myself impacts my self-image, which is how I see myself. So if I think of myself as a winner, I see myself as a person who can overcome any constraint or most of the constraints. Whereas if I see myself as a loser, if my self-concept is that of a loser, my self-image is going to be of a person who always looks for problems rather than thinking that I can solve those problems. A person with a positive self-image has a high self-esteem, and a person with a negative self-image has a low self-esteem. The rest is very clear. Most results, most success happens with people with high self-esteem. So at times you and I may actually tell somebody, well, he's got a high self-esteem or she's very confident, and that is why they're so successful. But what I want you to think about is not about confidence, not about self-esteem. I want you to think about, where is that self-esteem or confidence coming from? It's coming from how you think of yourself. So what I want to leave you here with this slide is think about how you think about yourself. Do you think yourself as a winner, or do you think of yourself as a loser? Because that is going to define whether you're going to be a champion or whether you will not be able to get the results. Most people, and I include myself in this a lot of times, most people focus more on their limitations, not on their strengths. Now, when you're focused on your limitations, psychologically, you've already lost the game. Let me tell you a story. This is a story which has been very, very motivating for me in my life. Many years ago, there was this lady in India. Her name was Arunima Sinha. I think the year was 2011. She was traveling in a train going home, and a bunch of robbers actually tried to take her purse, and she was a strong woman. She tried fighting them. These guys actually, in the struggle, threw her off the train, and she fell on the tracks. There was another train passing, went over her leg. She was taken to the hospital. When she woke up, she realized that they had to amputate one of her legs to save her life. I want you to imagine the pain this person would have been going through at that time, not just the physical pain, the emotional pain, the psychological pain, right? At that time, within a few days of the accident and the amputation, Arunima Sinha decided what she wanted to do with her life. And the one thing that she wanted to do, she told herself, she said, I am going to climb Mount Everest. Now, you and I may wonder, why the Mount Everest? It could have been anything else. But for her, it was the Mount Everest, because in her mind, climbing the Mount Everest would have been the height of success for herself. In her condition, if she could do that, she thought she could do anything in life. So she called a lady called Bachindrapal, who was another Indian lady who had climbed the Mount Everest. And Bachindrapal came to meet her in the hospital. And Arunima requested her, she said, I would like you to coach me to climb the Mount Everest. I want you to hear what Bachindrapal told Arunima. Bachindrapal told her, she said, Arunima, you have already climbed the Mount Everest. In your mind, you have already climbed the Mount Everest. Now what is left is just for the world to see when you do it. Those are powerful words. What Bichendra Pal was really telling Arunima was, in your condition, Arunima, if you decided that you wanted to do this, you're already a winner, you're a champion, and you can do anything, including climbing the Mount Everest. Now, for a moment, pause here. I'm about 50 years old, I'm in health, but when I think about climbing the Mount Everest, intuitively my mind goes to all the problems. Oh, I've got a slip disc. Oh, I'm 50 years old. Will I be able to do this? Will I be able to take time out from work? How safe is it going to be? Some of you could be younger or my age or older, but I'm sure when you think of Mount Everest, you're not thinking, I'm going to do it in the next year or 2 years. Now think about Arunima Sinha, lying in the hospital with her leg freshly amputated. This young girl had already decided that she's going to climb the Everest. This was 2011. In 2013, Arunima Sinha had climbed the Mount Everest. And not just the Mount Everest. She went on to climb the 7 highest mountain peaks around the world, something which very few people in this world have done. And she did it in her condition. Ignoring your limitations, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a marketing person, whether you're a leader or a follower, doesn't matter. If you can ignore your limitations and focus on your strengths, you're already a champion. The other thing which has impacted me hugely in my life is what I like to call the Bumblebee Syndrome. So that's a bumblebee that you can see on the screen. As you can see, the bumblebee's body is very heavy. And I don't know if the wings are visible. The span of the wings is very, very small. Now, by the law of aerodynamics, scientifically speaking, the bumblebee should not be able to fly. But here is the thing. The bumblebee is not a scientist. The bumblebee is not being told that it cannot fly, and the bumblebee flies. So, at times, ignoring what the world tells you you cannot do can actually help you do that very thing. I want you to think in your roles, and it could be any role, any function. Are you thinking like a bumblebee? Are you thinking like Arunima Sinha? Or are you focused on your limitations or what the world tells you that you cannot do? Sometimes, if not always, I realize it helps visualize your success before you can actually get the success. Why is that important? Because all of us are human beings. All of us tend to get demotivated at some time or the other. And it is when you are most fallible to getting demotivated, if you can taste success, if you can see your success, if in your heart you can feel what this success means for you, your motivation comes back again. So visualizing your success at times is very important to achieving the success. I like telling stories. I like giving examples because otherwise, it becomes very theoretical. All of us have heard about Walt Disney. Most of us have either seen or gone to Disneyland. Now, when Disneyland was open, when the inauguration was happening, Walt Disney was no longer there. But his brother was there. His brother was, I think, Roy Disney. And one of the journalists who had come to visit, he caught hold of Roy and he said, Roy, it's such a bittersweet moment because it would have been so nice if Walt Disney was here. He could have seen his dream come true. So Roy looks at the journalist and he says, you know what? You're wrong. Walt Disney saw Disneyland years before Disneyland even became a reality. Because he saw it in his mind, today you and I are seeing it in the real world. So visualizing your success is very important. To all the leaders here, I want you to think about how much success for yourself and your teams in your organization do you visualize? How often are you able to get your teams to visualize that success? And if you don't have any teams reporting into you, if you're one of those fortunate people who is just responsible for themselves, I want to ask you, or at least think, how much of your success do you visualize? Do you start your day every day thinking, oh my God, I have to do this? Or do you start your day by saying, okay, I visualize this for myself. And today's the day I'm going to go and start achieving it. That can make all the difference. I think I said this earlier, the barriers that we create for ourselves are in our own mind. We may blame the world, we may blame the situations, and I've done that too. But the biggest barrier is the barrier that we set for ourselves. The self-talking that we do, where we tell ourselves what is possible for us to do, what is not possible for us to do. That is the biggest barrier. And here is an interesting story. I don't know how many of you are into sports and how many of you like running. The only running I do is on the treadmill in the gym. For many years, no sports person was ever able to complete the 1 mile race in less than 4 minutes. So in the community of runners, people who do the 1 mile race, this had become a belief system that nobody can actually complete the 1 mile race in less than 4 minutes. In 1954, I think it was 6th May 1954, a young man called Robert Bannister, for the first time in the history of the world, completed the 1 mile race in less than 4 minutes. I think he did it in 3 minutes, 59 seconds. That's not the important part. It made history, of course, but the important part is not that. The important part is what happened after Bannister broke that 4-minute barrier. I want you to imagine the 4-minute barrier had not been broken for years. Nobody had ever done it. People had been trying for 30 years, 40 years, but they couldn't do it. But the day Robert Bannister showed the world that it can be done, within a few months of that, scores of people had completed the 1 mile race in less than 4 minutes. What do you think was happening? What was happening was that before Bannister did it, in everybody's mind, the message they were sending themselves was, this is impossible to achieve. It just cannot be done. But the moment Bannister did it, people said, well, somebody has done it. That means it's possible. And maybe we can do it too. Sports budgets did not increase. The techniques they were trying out did not change. Their body structure did not change. What changed was the mindset. Yes, it is possible. We've seen it happen, so we can do it too. And in the last so many years, 60 years or so, multiple people have broken that barrier and broken that barrier by a wide margin. I want you to think about, maybe now, maybe later, but do think about, what are those barriers that you have put for yourself? What are the things that you tell yourself that you can do or not do? And which of those barriers you will decide to break starting today? Even if it's one, that's great. It's a great beginning, right? So those are a few things I wanted to share with you on building a champion mindset. But since we're talking to an audience which is, deeply entrenched in sales, I thought let's also talk about some sales attitudes, because when you combine champion mindsets with the right sales attitude, that's the magic sauce. Having been in sales myself for many years, in the early part of my career, and I've headed sales team both as regional manager and as a national sales head. One of the things I realized is that when you're in sales, there are multiple things that stop you from giving your full when you go to meet customers. For some people, it is embarrassment. They're shy. Oh, I have to sell to this person. I'm embarrassed to sell. For some people, it is the fear of being rejected. Oh, what if he or she doesn't like my product or doesn't like me? What if they tell me to move out of the office? It could be anything. What's really helped me is the belief that when I go out there, I am helping the customer. I'm not just going to sell something to the customer. I'm actually helping the customer, making their life better. When you have that mindset, you go in as a consultant. You don't go in as a salesperson. Then you are truly believing that you're helping the customer by identifying what the customer needs and how you can solve their problems. It's like, in India and Nepal, we used to have these monks. and monks used to go out. We used to call them bhikshus. They used to go out door to door, asking for alms, rice, or whatever else to eat. They didn't think of themselves as beggars. They actually thought of themselves as people who are helping the people feeding them get good karma. Because they believed that when those people give them food, they will benefit from it. So there was no embarrassment of going and asking for food. It's a very similar mindset. When you go into the customer, you're not going in to ask for a favor. You're not going there and pleading, saying, hey, I want your business. If you go with that mindset, there is going to be fear, there's going to be embarrassment. But when you go in thinking, I'm going in to make the customer's life better, your entire attitude changes. You're more confident, you're more positive. Okay, now I know that sales at times may not be considered as glamorous or flamboyant a function as, say, brand management, product development, or other functions in the organization. But remember, most of the fuel that comes to run the organization comes from the revenue that you guys get in. So you're a very important part of the organization. Knowing that, believing that, will give you that extra dose of confidence and motivation to go out every day, talk to more and more clients, and add value. Because then you are seeing yourself not just as a cog in the wheel, you're seeing yourself as somebody who is truly instrumental in moving the entire wheel forward. Because the organization cannot move forward without you. Very important point. At times, because we are in love with a product or because we just have to take our product or service or solution to the customer, we forget a very basic thing. We forget to figure out what is the actual need of the customer. Now imagine you're trying to sell something to me or to somebody else and you don't really know what I need. No matter how great a product you have, you're not going to be able to be successful selling me your product. So the first thing you need to do is really figure out the need. And this is not a sales program, otherwise I could have spoken more about it. But when I talk about need, I'm talking about what is that one thing or two things which are really big pain points for my customer. Do I know those pain points? If I know those pain points, I'm already on the journey of beginning to help my customer. And when I can do that, I don't have to fight for the sale. Objections are lesser. The whole process becomes easier for you and your customer. Most importantly, it's not about your product. It's not about your service or solution. It's about you. I could have a great product, but if I'm somebody who believes that the product is not great or my organization is not great, or what's the customer going to think about me or my product, or I'm not the right guy to sell this product, you could give me the best product. I'll not be able to make a success out of it. Many years ago, I think about 20 years ago, when I was regional manager for one of the banks in India, my national head told me the story. I remember it vaguely now. He said there was this company and, they were trying to get into one of the territories in, I think, South America. And they sent the salesperson out there to see what he could make out of that place. And he comes back and he says, you know what? Nobody out there uses our product or a product like ours. There is really no market. And then they send another guy. He comes back. He's really excited. And he says, you know what? Nobody out there is using a product like ours. There is such a huge market. Where one person sees adversity, a champion salesperson or a champion leader sees an opportunity. It's not about the product. It's not even about your organization at times. It's about you. What you think of yourself, how you present yourself to your customer. All of that is what defines the success. If I come to you trying to do business with you or try to sell you something, but let's say you do not trust me, I could be giving you a fantastic product. You're not going to buy from me. So when I meet up with a customer, here are some questions I may want to ask myself, right? Do I have trust with this customer? If not, why do I not have trust with this customer? What can I do to build more trust? Does the person think I'm credible? If not, how can I build my credibility with these people? Could I build my own credibility? Or could I also get credibility from the product I'm selling? Maybe it's a great product. Could I get credibility from previous people from my company who have met up with these guys? It's very important to cultivate that trust. Without trust, business doesn't happen. And business is nothing but an extension of relationships. Think about it. Who would want to have a relationship with you if they don't trust you? Customers are also people who have relationships with us, right? If they don't trust us, we could be selling them a Rolls Royce. They just won't think it's worth buying it, or at least not worth buying it from us. They'd probably buy it from somebody else. Somebody who's been a salesperson, I can tell you, a lot of times when we go in and meet up with customers, we are so intent on telling the customer how great we are or how great our product is that we forget to listen to the customer. And you remember I spoke about figuring out the customer's need, the customer's pain points. If we're the only guys doing the talking, the customer knows whatever there is to know about us. We know nothing about the customer. So actively listening to what the customer has to say, not just about us, not just about their need, but also what the customer has to say about competition, about the market, about the changing dynamics out there. All of that, very important. The other thing in sales attitude, stay hungry. Look, you might be the best salesperson, in the country. But the thing is, what you did yesterday ended with yesterday. And you guys would know there is nowhere where this is more true than in sales. Your successes of yesterday are in the past. You can't live on those laurels. You need to be thinking about what you can do tomorrow, what you can do today, right? Taking the energy from your past success is good, but thinking about how you can use that to fuel future success is even more important. And I think salespeople who are able to do that are consistently successful. I worked with people as a sales coach with sales leaders, and I realized that even senior sales leaders at times need their motivation, not just what they did in the past to motivate them, but that hunger of what they can continue doing, which allows them and their teams to keep going out in the market, meeting up with customers and saying, okay, here is the next milestone that we are setting for ourselves, and this is what we're going to achieve for the company. We are human, as I said earlier. Failure is something none of us likes. It brings us down, it demotivates us. But if you can change your definition of failure, that is the beginning of being successful. If you think of failure as an end point, the game is gone. But if you are able to think of failure as a starting point to something newer, that's where success starts. So, one of the people who has made a huge impression in my life is Thomas Edison. And I was reading somewhere that when he created the bulb, when he invented the bulb, 10,000 times he actually failed in his experimentation. But when journalists asked him what kept him going, despite failing so many times, it was the response that Edison gave that really won over my heart. He said, I never failed. I just found 10,000 different ways of succeeding. Now that is a champion mindset. And if you can get that mindset to sales, your sales attitude is going to be unstoppable. So we've spoken about building a champion mindset, where I spoke about a lot of stuff. We've spoken about what are some of the things that you can do to build the right sales attitude for yourself. The next is differentiating yourself. A lot of times I'm asked in various forums and seminars, how can we differentiate ourselves from our customers? And my question is, why do you want to differentiate yourself from the customers, from your competitors, right? And the typical answers are, I want to differentiate myself so that, customers see me as different and they buy from me. But you don't have to differentiate yourself, because guys, you are different. You are not your competition. If I'm Xerox, you're Canon, we are different. If you're Ricoh, you're different. If I'm Standard Chartered, you're HSBC, you're Citi, we are different. Why are we different? Because our DNA is different. Our visions are different. Our customer segments might be different. How we work could be different. How we view our customers could be different. Motivation levels of our sales teams could be different. It's not only about differentiating in terms of product, it's differentiating yourself in the overall scheme of things. So you are not your competition, you are already different. So all this rage about trying to differentiate yourself, well, let's put that on the side for the moment. But what are some of the things that you could do if you still wanted to differentiate yourself? So there is this term in sales internationally that we use. It's called customer concept. Very popular in the US, very popular in other markets. We started using this in India as well many years ago as part of our behavioral selling programs and consultative selling programs. Look, if you are not able to understand your customer concept, you will not be successful. Any sale that you do is going to be a miracle or a fluke, right? And you cannot rely on miracles and flukes. So what is a customer concept? In simple terms, customer concept is how your customer thinks your product or you can solve that customer's problem. Now, here are the important things, which means you need to know what the customer's problem is. So we spoke about that earlier, figuring out the need. Then you need to also be able to figure out how that problem is impacting the customer, how badly, how severely, right? And three, how can your specific product or solution help solve that problem for the customer? This entire thing is called the customer concept. Now, in sales programs, we actually train people how they can not just understand the customer concept, but how they can align their product and solution to that customer concept. Because you know what? If I, as a salesperson, am not able to understand the customer concept, my competitor will understand, and they can reshape that customer concept in a way that is beneficial for the customer and for them, certainly not for me. So one of the things that you may want to look at when you're differentiating yourself is understand the customer concept. I would be more than happy to share more inputs on customer concepts offline. I don't want to take up time during this session. This was more to give you a broader idea that there is something called a customer concept, and you should be focused on that. The other thing, when you're looking at differentiating yourself, is not just focusing where others are focusing. So some of the sales leaders here might have read about the whole concept of blue ocean strategy. Sometimes people focus too much where everybody is there and the ocean gets all bloody, and that's called the red ocean market. Blue oceans are vast expanses of markets, customers, segments where nobody is really focused on. And you can actually go and create a niche there, right? So people who are interested may want to read up around blue ocean strategies. You'll get a lot of material there. Or alternatively, you could reach out to me offline. I'd be happy to help you out on that. The idea is not just to be focused where everybody else is focusing. The idea is to create your own niche. So as salespeople and leaders, there will be certain kind of customers where you are more effective. Well, one strategy could be to focus more over there. Deepen your relationship with those segments. The other could be finding new segments which have not been found yet by competition or even by you or your team members, and building a market for yourself out there. The third is clearing out the noise. Most of us get put down because of all the noise around us, the noise which is telling us we can't do this, we can't do that, and this is the reason we are going to fail. The reason I had the eagle put here is because, I don't know, a lot of you might know this, sometimes there are crows which sit on top of the eagle and they keep pecking away at the flesh on the eagle's head. Now, the eagle can always land down, can fight with the crow, try and argue, debate with the crow. but it's not worth the eagle's time. So you know what the eagle does is the eagle just keeps flying, and it keeps flying higher and higher and higher. It reaches a point where the crow is unable to actually exist or survive. So eventually, the crow either dies or the crow lets go and falls down. The eagle is not bothered about the crows. The eagle already knows it's different from the crow. The eagle doesn't have to prove to the crow that it is better. The eagle understands its strengths, and the eagle focuses on those strengths. And that's why it reaches where others cannot go or cannot prevail. Okay. I think the single question that has haunted me all my career, first in the corporate arena and then later on as a coach, has been where sales teams have come to me and said, but Chief, they are lower in price than us. And I've always tried telling people that, look, if your argument is that somebody is lower in price and that is why they're getting the deal, then you've not even understood why that customer is doing the deal with them. Because as a salesperson, you will always have the option of either fighting or competing on price or on value. When you try and compete on price, it's a lose-lose proposition. Eventually, whoever has the capacity to drop the prices lowest is going to win. But they may not be the best fit for that particular customer. Whereas if you're fighting on value, I've noticed customers across multiple industries, telecommunications, real estate, banking and financial services, FMCG, retail, pharma, any industry, the sales teams which are focused on value are always able to sell at a much higher price than competitors are. Because they're able to figure out, apart from price, what are those 7, 8 other things which are important for the customer. Now, think back to what I said earlier, the customer concept. If you understood that customer's concept, you will also know what are the 7, 8 things which, apart from price, are important for the customer. That is when you can fight this equation, value versus price. If you've not done that, then unfortunately, the only thing that you're fighting on is going to be price. And there is no winner when you fight that game. So we've done champion mindset, we've spoken about sales attitude, we've spoken about differentiating yourself. And eventually we have the new paradigm. And, we spoke about paradigms at the beginning of the session. And now you'll probably understand why I spoke about that. Because if you continue believing that that's the way things happen and that's the way things are done here, well, then nothing's going to change. But the paradigm is already changing. So we can either align with that paradigm, we can shift with it, or the paradigm will shift it for us. And the latter is never a great situation, right? So what are some of the things that we can do? Well, develop new skills. Most of the skills today, so as CEO of Talgro, we're an EdTech company and we work with top universities across the world and also with some of the leading corporates globally. One of the things that we realized is most of the skills that people have today, majority of those skills are going to become defunct or obsolete over the next 5 to 7 years. Now that's scary in a way, because that means if I do not focus on developing new skills, whether it's selling techniques, selling methodologies, change in my mindset, how I lead teams, if I don't look at all of that, there is a huge chance that I might actually get obsolete. So develop new skills. Some of the skills could be social skills, interpersonal skills. That's never going to go out of fashion. In fact, that's becoming all the more important today. Some of the people in the last 16 months who have been selling more effectively virtually are people with great social skills. The other thing is about developing more functional skills, which you realize are going to be in demand over the next 2 to 5 years. Taking out time to focus on that. Today you have MOOCs like Coursera, Udemy, so many other platforms. You have Khan Academy. Most of these offer courses free of cost. And even the ones which are charged are at very nominal rates. Set some milestones for yourself. Identify 3 or 4 new skills, which are going to be skills of the future. Start working on building them for yourself now. Over the next year and a half, you'll be a very different individual, right? The champion mindset will help you to an extent. Sales mindset will help you to an extent. But new skills, very important. Creativity, for instance, is going to be a skill which is going to be even more in demand because AI and machine learning is not going to be able to replicate that one. So human skills, creativity, these two are going to be very powerful, right? Using technology to your advantage, I think all of us understand that. And I noticed that the next speaker is actually going to talk to you a lot about new selling methodologies. And I'm assuming that tech will get taken care of there. I just want to say that, look, today we are living in a virtual world. Your comfort with technology, at least the technology that impacts your customer, is very important. Also, understanding how comfortable your customers are with technology will help you engage with them in meaningful ways, right? Ways that are meaningful to both of you. Also, there are apps today. So there are apps which are free that you can download, which help you manage the process of sales much more effectively. You know, where you keep getting your notifications in time, you're able to manage your CRM, relationship management, your databases, call structures, all of that. So using technology will help you make your selling process way more efficient. The other is time management. Look, we're always going to have customers who are going to pull us in different directions, right? Today, most of us are working out of homes, most of the time at least. Even more important to manage time. There is going to be stuff which is urgent and stuff which is important. Normally, we gravitate towards stuff which is urgent because there is a timeline associated with it. But if you keep doing that, you will get caught in a firefighting circle. And that's a circle of chaos. My suggestion, figure out what's important. Focus on the important stuff first. Because if you don't focus on that, tomorrow it'll become important and urgent both. And that'll be a huge fire in your garden, right? Also prioritize your customers. All customers are important, but prioritize them, right? Which customer needs what information from me maybe before the other ones do? How is it that I can streamline my process so that I can address each of my customers' needs in a much more effective manner? And eventually put the customer first. These are times when we need to be empathetic, not just with ourselves and our families and our colleagues, but even with customers. And I've noticed this personally, when we deal with our customers, if we are able to place the customer first.
Sir, we are running out of the time. So I wanted to remind you.
Yeah. So another 2 minutes?
Yes, sir.
If we are able to put the customer first, that becomes a very, very powerful, weapon in our array. Nepal has a history of producing very successful people. One slide is not enough. Even 100 slides wouldn't be enough. But these are a few people who've really impressed the hell out of me. Shri Vinod Chaudhary, Nepal's first billionaire. It's not the money which is exciting. It's the struggle which is exciting for me. How he has got where he has got to. Vidya Devi Bhandari, her achievements. Tenzing Norgay, of course. Success has no limits, no constraints, no gender, no age. Aditya Dahal, the Google boy. I mean, at age of 4, he's been actually making responses to questions in physics and chemistry, which I probably wouldn't be able to do. And all these other successful people. Nepal has a history of success. People in Nepal have the grit and determination to do it. You have the grit and determination to do it, right? So I think it's just a question of putting our heads down and getting to it. In conclusion, the role of the leader is very important. To all the leaders here, I would like to suggest being more authentic if they're already not. A lady once went to Mr. Gandhi and said, tell my child to stop having sugar because he has too much of sugar. Mr. Gandhi told her, come back after 3 weeks. And she is wondering, I've traveled so long to come and meet Mr. Gandhi. Why can't he just tell me now, what to do? Anyway, after 3 weeks, when she comes, Mr. Gandhi tells the child, stop having so much of sugar. So the child says, okay. And the mother asks Mr. Gandhi, why couldn't you just tell me this 3 weeks ago? And Mr. Gandhi says, because 3 weeks ago, I was myself having sugar. I could not have told your son not to have sugar. That's authentic leadership. putting yourself in the shoes of the team member and saying, can I ask them to do this? Would I be willing to do it myself? There is adversity, but adversity provides you opportunity. My last words would be, don't focus on the past, on your mistakes of the past, on your success of the past. If you keep looking in the rearview mirror, you are going to crash your car. Be focused ahead and try and see how much of what we've spoken about, among other things, can be put to use to create a successful tomorrow rather than just having a successful past. Open to questions. I am stopping the screen share. Please feel free to ask your questions through chat or any other mode that you feel is going to be.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jagmohan Bhanver, for motivating us. And we are really privileged to have you here, who took out time to be here despite your challenging schedule. Thank you so much, sir. And now we have a question answer session question answer round. So anyone who wants to ask Jagmohan sir any question, please write on the chat box so I can read the questions for Jagmohan sir.
Aarti, I haven't been knighted yet by the Queen, so Jagmohan is good enough, and I'm not that old either. So if there are any questions, I'd be delighted to try and respond to those. I'm cognizant that the next session also has to start. So if there are questions, feel free to ask.
I don't think we have questions. So if you have any question, audience, please feel free to write on our chat box. So Jagmohan sir is still here with us. He's eagerly waiting for you, to answer your questions. Okay, sir. I think we don't have any questions. Okay, there's one question, sir, for you. What will be the future sales strategy from Shukla Raj?
Shukla Rajji, that's a lovely question. I'll answer it in two ways very quickly. The future sales strategy for different organizations in different industries will look different. But since you've asked this question, I think the common denominator there is going to be customization and personalization. What I mean by that is, in the past, companies used to sell, commodities. So which means this is our product and this is what is going to go to everybody. Like in India, it was the ambassador car and the Fiat car. Then came customization, where you started customizing products. The future is going to be personalization. How can we personalize our product or service or solution to an individual rather than to a segment? And I think that's going to be the crux of the future sales. And technology is going to play a very crucial role there. Stuff like AI, machine learning, data analytics, meaningful customer insights will help a lot in personalization. So my response is personalization, Shukla. Any other questions?
No, sir. We don't have any more questions. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the session. I am motivated, and I think our audience is also very motivated by your examples, by your stories. I love the way you presented.
Well, thank you very much, Aarti, and it's been such a pleasure being with all of you. Thank you again for having me here. Best of luck to the audience. Enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.